Welcome to Full Scope, a sports podcast that discusses various sports topics and various issues that are at the forefront of sports. I'm your host, Wellington Burns, along with my counterpart, Savon Morris. How's it going?
It's going good, man. I'm glad
Yeah,
we're back at it.
finally up. Um, and for today, I mean, we got a lot of topics to get into. This past week in college football, there were some pretty convincing conference championship wins. A lot of them didn't go how you expected, but not none to say the least. There were some pretty convincing wins. What were your thoughts on them?
Or did we? I mean, I think
Yeah,
every game, well, except TCU, was the game I said that they're going to win. But every other game, I said the outcome was I knew Clemson was going to beat Miami. I knew Ohio State was going to beat Wisconsin. It was a close game, but I knew it was going to beat them. And
I thought
the
you had
one
Miami for Wisconsin. I thought you had Miami for Clemson.
no, I didn't. I said Clemson was going to win.
Really?
Yeah, I wasn't. We both agreed because we both wasn't set
Okay.
on.
Okay.
Yeah, we wasn't set on mine because they lost to Pitt,
Oh yeah,
and
gotcha.
yeah. So, but the only thing that surprised me, I said Auburn and Georgia game is going to be hard to beat a team twice. We didn't know what carry on Johnson was going to be healthy or not, but they beat them very convincingly.
Yeah.
Now they look good. Georgia looks good. Georgia looks like they did before they lost to Auburn. I think they had a chip on their shoulder, of course. Went to the SEC championship, said, okay, we could be in the playoffs. We deserve to be in the playoffs. And they showed that game. Showed in that game. Oklahoma showed me that their defense can step up. Um, they did it early too. They stepped up early, so I'm excited about the playoffs, man. It's about to be interesting.
Yeah, it really is. I mean, the fact that Georgia was able to adjust from the last game, and Jake Fromm looked a lot more poised and a lot more efficient on third downs. That was like the biggest takeaway. He was extremely poised and had just a complete game. And when you have Nick Chubb and Mitchell finally being productive in the backfield in terms of the game against Auburn, they weren't the last game, but they were actually able to be a lot more productive, and you could see that opened up a lot for the offense.
It did, and then can't forget Swift. Swift kind of
Yeah,
surprised me in the running game with Chubb and Michelle. So I mean, if the running game is good, then Georgia is good. The offensive line blocked. They gave him time, like you said. They gave Fromm more time in the backfield, more time to read his coverages and stuff, and they showed on the field with the 28-7 win. But it was a
yeah,
good win for Georgia going into the playoffs. They're playing Oklahoma, though.
yeah, most
Yeah,
definitely.
it's gonna be interesting.
So, moving on to the final four, I don't think we were really surprised with the top three. That was pretty much signed, sealed, and delivered.
Right.
And um, for the number four, that was the spot where everybody was like, okay, who's going to get in? Is it going to be Ohio State, the conference champion, or is it going to be Alabama? Alabama was able to get in. Do you think they should have gotten in?
Yes.
Yeah,
For the reason being, Ohio State lost two games, one to a low team in Iowa, then they lost to a team that's already in the playoffs in Oklahoma. So you look at that and you put Ohio State back in with two lost opponents, and you have Bama coming off a loss to Auburn, who lost to Georgia, and I think Alabama would have beat Georgia convincingly. So you give them the spot, and then you give them the last spot, so they can play the team that they lost to last year in Clemson. So I think it was a good idea for ratings, for viewers, and for Alabama. If you want to be fair, I know there's a lot of SEC teams in it, but they only had one blemish, and it came from a team that went to the SEC championship and lost to Georgia. So I don't think Ohio State, with JT Barry being not completely healthy, and they skipped by against a team that wasn't as big and powerful as Ohio State and Wisconsin. I don't think they wanted another Big Ten team in the playoffs just because of the strength of schedule.
yeah, and it's also like, do you want another snooze fest? And
Yeah,
I think the Ohio State Clemson game would have just been another convincing win by Clemson, because
yeah,
there was nothing that showed me from this year that anything changed from last year. because they looked inconsistent. Like they're really a streaky team, and they
Right.
looked inconsistent against like the loss that I think was the nail in the coffin was the Iowa loss, losing by 31 to a 7-5 team that was completely inferior. That's a loss that's similar to Penn State's loss to Michigan when they lost by 40. Like even though they were the conference champion, the committee looked at that 39-point loss and was like, that's not going to be able to cut it in terms of them actually being able to get in. So to me, yeah, Alabama's the better team, and they were in terms of the matchup, it's the more appealing matchup with Alabama Clemson compared to another probably handling of Ohio State with Clemson.
Yeah. And we know Ohio State is defense is not terrible, but they're okay. And I think Alabama's defense can match Clemson's
They're getting
offense and vice
healthier.
versa.
They're going to
Yeah,
get healthy with their getting more the linebackers back. So that should be very beneficial for them in that matchup.
yeah, definitely a rematch from last year. Both teams are different, but they still have the similar
Yeah,
qualities
different
to last
components.
year. Yeah, but I think it's still gonna be a great game though
Yeah.
For the Sugar Bowl. Yeah.
Yes. Moving to coaching, Jimbo Fisher had a huge payday, 10 years, 75 million from Texas A&M, and he moved on from Florida State. He was 83-23 there, won a championship, and he had a pretty much successful tenure there, even though this last season was really disappointing.
Right.
What were your thoughts on him going there?
I was surprised at first. Then I saw being enticed with a 10-year deal over 60 mil, 7 year, I mean 7.5 a year, I believe.
Yeah.
So that'll make any guy leave. That'll make any guy, even though he's successful, and the ACC is not as big as the SEC. But I see how enticing it was and how easy it was to transition into Texas A&M, who has so much potential, and that I think he can strive in the SEC. And I think he wanted a new challenge, being there under Bobby Bowden, and then taking the reins after Bowden retired, and being successful, winning a national championship in 2013, and building up players and quarterbacks like Jameis Winston and Calvin Benjamin, and Francois is going to be a good quarterback if he
Yeah.
stays healthy. So I think he has the ability to bring up players into um, kind of coach up players and personnel people, because everybody loves him at Florida State. From players, coaches, whatever, students there. It was a hard punch blow for him to leave because he's been there so long. But I see why he left to go to Texas A&M. He wanted a new journey, a new feel. So
Do you
yeah,
think
I
he
mean,
can do you think he can establish a more disciplined culture in terms of like they were probably one of the most penalized teams in college football in terms of just the sloppy, offsides penalties, false starts, a lot of those. Do you think there'll be a more disciplined team under him?
I think so because if you it plays a role in the recruiting as well. If you see the recruiting for the defense, I don't think Jimbo ever had a bad defense.
Yeah.
Offense has always been they had bits and pieces players. They always had a good running back, wide receiver, and the quarterback play. They had Chris Ponder, they had Emmanuel, not Sanders. Oh shoot, what's his name? I know his first name is Emmanuel. He got drafted by the Bills, but they always had a decent offense, but they always had a great defense. And I think that's what Texas A&M is missing. They never had a great defense, even when Von Miller was there. So I think he could bring that element back to Texas A&M, or bring it that has never been, to be honest. Um, but I think he's going to be good for Texas A&M. It's going to be a transition. Can he win or go to the college football playoffs? Perhaps, but
Yeah.
it starts in recruiting, the recruiting process. And I think he's good at recruiting and getting good players on offense as well as defense.
Yeah, most definitely. And it definitely was an interesting hire. Um, like you said, when you get the offer that he got, it's hard to deny whether you're any coach. And
Right.
so that definitely made sense. Another big coaching move was Herm Edwards going to Arizona State. He hasn't coached in 10 years. He's been an analyst. Um, what do you think his style and approach can fit to the age of now in terms of college football?
I think so. You look at coaches. Um, like Bob Stoops, older coaches like Joe before he retired, before he passed away, and before that, all the situation at Penn State
Yeah.
happened. Older coaches that have coached for a long time and seen different generations and different players go throughout the college. I think he can. And he's a great coach. He plays football. He knows football. I think he can win early because when he started coaching with the Jets in 2001. They had a 10-6 record and went to the playoffs, lost in a wild card. There was 9-7, and then they kind of went down to Thursday 6-10. Then it went back 10-6, and then it fluctuates. But I think he can win early. I think he can bring a mentality, like we said, like I said last week, he bring that tenacious mentality, the old school vibe back into the program, or back to, like I said, something new to the program. I think that they have that coach that's going to be on them. He said he want to get every ounce of the players' energy,
Yeah.
time, talent. He wants every single thing. A lot of people won't agree with that. A couple of recruits decommitted. Uh, one big time recruit for them, Jared Patterson, a 4-star offensive lineman, decommitted. So I don't think he wants to play for him. Obviously, if he decommits, but I think he'll be good for the program. I think that's what they need. They need some old school type feel to it. He can be successful, um, but we're gonna see.
Do you,
I
in terms of
go
the Pac-12 South, do you think he can they can legitimately compete? I mean, I feel like that's kind of the question. Can they like
well
can he do an
they were 7-4 in conference play, so they weren't
Yeah.
terrible. They weren't bad. Like I said, those type of teams never have. I think the motivation or the thing on the board is offense.
Yeah.
The pack is all about offense. You never see a defense. You rarely see a defense. Oregon had a slight defense in 2010, 2011 season when they played Auburn in the national championship. They had a slight defense, but you never see those guys having a defense. But I think if you have a good quarterback and a good offense, and they were 7-4 in conference play, they can compete. The pack is not as competitive as any other as SEC, ACC, even the Big Ten, Big 12, like conferences like that. They're not as competitive, and that's why they
Yeah.
don't really get into the national championship or the CFB, to be
Yeah.
honest. But yeah,
Yeah, it definitely was. I think a move where he can bring back um maybe a fire that they didn't have.
yeah.
He's a very fiery coach. He's old school. He's not changing his methods. He's gonna, you know,
he's to the
he's
book, man.
he's
He's
adamant.
definitely to the book.
He's not gonna change his philosophy, and that's what's great about Herm Edwards. And I think that's what can be great for this hire. That they can bring back just a really good approach to what they're trying to do. Um, Jeremy Pruitt, I think Alabama's defensive coordinator, was offered the Tennessee job, and Willie Taggart is going to Florida
Florida
State.
State, yeah.
Um, do you have any thoughts about those moves, or did you think those were pretty, just solid moves?
I didn't think you never think these guys are going to lead the programs that they just got with. I didn't think Taggart, but like I said, it's a different type of feel and vibe. You go from the Pac-12 to ACC. It's a big jump, and I think that's a dream job for him in the field. He was successful at Oregon, and I think
Yeah,
he's bringing his defensive coordinator over. They weren't bad on defense either, but they offense, they were quick, fast. I think in the recruiting process, he'll make an impact because if you coach at Oregon, speed kills. So if you're going to a state where speed actually kills, so I
yeah,
think him in being in the recruiting process and him coming, all these coaches coming late, they have a step back from everybody else who's already been sustained and going throughout the state and trying to get in-state players as well as out-of-state players. But I think it was a good move. First black head coach for Florida State, which is a big win
yeah,
um, for the black community. Whoop.
yeah,
But but I think it's good. I think it was a good move
yeah.
for
Most that.
both Florida State and Will Taggart to begin a new tenure at the head
Yeah,
coach position. Yeah,
yeah. Most definitely. It's even though that they lost a very influential coach and a very iconic
yeah,
coach, they got a good pickup with him. And then there were definitely some interesting coaching moves. Moving to the Heisman conversation, Baker Mayfield, Lamar Jackson, Bryce Love are the finalists, and
Mm-hmm.
Mayfield kind of seems like the favorite. I think he had probably arguably his best season in his collegiate career. He's just been phenomenal, completed 71% of his passes, and it's just been the heart and soul of that team, the identity, everything that team, you know, builds itself around is him. He's the centerpiece. So, do you think he's just the clear runaway favorite for this one?
I believe so.
Yeah,
Giving even when Lamar Jackson has still had a great season, the record doesn't show it, but he still had a great season. He improved in many aspects of the game. But you look at Baker Mayfield and what he can do and how he's mobile and he can create plays with his feet. He reminds you of a more polished Johnny Manziel. He's more accurate than Menzel. He has the big arm like him, but he's more accurate. He's more polished. He's smarter with the ball. He doesn't make big mistakes. Is he bullheaded at times? Yeah, but it comes with football. It comes with his respect of the game. But I think he's definitely a clear runner for the Heisman the race because he's been more consistent than any player in college football right now. And then he's taking his team after a one-loss blemish to a team that that you weren't expecting to lose
yeah,
to, but they bounced back and rebound and beat the teams they needed to beat. Now they're in the race for the college football playoffs and the national championship. So I think he's definitely a clear runner. I think everybody knows Baker Mayfield is going to win. Stay
yeah,
after his junior season. So yeah, he's a clear front runner, even when Lamar Jackson's on the board.
yeah, most definitely, and I definitely think he's going to be that, and he's going to have he's going to have opportunity to add some more hardware uh in next year for the playoff if they can go on a run. So it should be interesting to see how things play out. But I mean, for the Heisman, he definitely should be the front runner. Um, Moving to the NFL on Monday night, Ryan Shazier just had a brutal um, spinal injury with a head on collision, and it kind of raised the question of maybe player safety in terms of, do parents want their kids to play um, football? Like, is this a sport they want their kids to play? So I got a two-part question for you. First of
Okay.
all, what were your thoughts on the injury, the horrific injury, and secondly, do you think it raises, highlights the question of player safety, and is this a sport parents want their kids to play?
Well, I watched the play and I replayed it probably 5 or 10 times.
Yeah,
It was more so a routine tackle, player coming across the field, him lunging, tackling regular heads up, heads in the right position, and he hurts his back. It's kind of like a freakish play because you know the risk of playing football, you know the things that come with the physicality of football, the barbaricness of football, if you will. But that was just a routine play. Sometimes you get in those positions and you hurt. I thought people thought he was paralyzed because he flipped over and he wasn't moving, and only his upper body was moving. So everybody felt the worst. But he had surgery, underwent surgery. I think either the same night or the next day, and he's doing well. But to answer your question, the other question, does parents want or does it raise a question? I think
yeah,
it's already
question.
been raised with the concussions and
Yeah, I
the
mean,
protocols.
yeah, I mean, I kind of meant to say, like, do you think it? I know it raises it. Like, do you think it just kind of highlights and adds to what has already been raised? You know what I mean? Like to what
Yeah,
has already been addressed.
most definitely. They're trying to take the precautions uh, of trying to prevent. It's kind of hard to prevent those plays. It's kind of hard to take all of the physicality out of football because it's with pads and people going full speed hitting each other. They're trying to implement new headgear, trying to implement people throwing flags, suspending people, different type of things to try their best to take out these horrific plays. And sometimes it's going to be hard to do so because it's so top speed and everybody's going at each other full speed, and it's kind of hard to take that out of football. And they're trying as hard as they can. The only way is to play two-hand touch, and well, that's not football.
Yeah,
So, but for parents or for kids in the inner city or It's a get out for them. And parents do want their kids to be in sports to keep them out of trouble or whatever the cost may be. And I think the parents know the harm and the danger of their kids playing, but I think they know the upside more so of the dangers of playing football. I think that's why football has continued to be, I think, the best sport in America or in the country, because people are faithful enough to continue to play, knowing the risks, knowing the things that are going to happen for them playing, broken legs, fibulas, MCLs, ACLs, whatever the case may be. Parents know.
Yeah,
Parents watch football,
yeah.
and they still choose to sign their kids up because they know the upside more of the the negativity that comes about football.
Yeah, most definitely, and it's definitely a conversation that's going to be talked about even more after seeing a
Yeah,
play like that. But at the same time, it's something that's kind of been around, and
yeah,
we know that it's been an issue on people's mind. Like just think about the movie Concussion
yeah,
with Will Smith. I mean, that really heightened it. You know what I mean? In terms
yeah,
of and I saw. I mean, seeing that once you just see the just the science of it, it really brings it to light. It's there, but once you see the science of it, it really brings it to light. Um, moving on to the Seahawks win against Philadelphia. They had a pretty dominant win, winning 24-10, and this was the highest scoring offense in the league, and they were held at 10 points. And Russell Wilson had a great game, 3 touchdown passes, and he seemed like he was single handedly doing things on offense to keep to have really good possessions. What do you think that this win said about the Seahawks? Do you think it's a win where it's just like, hey, they still can beat anybody?
yeah. Most definitely. And the
Yeah,
record shows they're 8-4. They beat a team that was hot and heavy. I think they show people that the Philadelphia Eagles can be beat, and this is the formula how to is to play good on offense and not make mistakes on defense and make Carson Wentz make mistakes on offense. And I know that sounds like a lot, but it's so simple.
yeah,
And I think Seahawks now they're getting the play that they expected 2 years out of Jimmy Graham. Jimmy Graham is playing on all levels. I thought he was going to be a bust first season with the Seahawks. He got injured. Second season, he's kind of we don't know. This season he was started off slow. Now he's picking up, and I think they're bringing him more into the offense and making plays just for him. And even with the struggling on the run game, they still have good wide receivers in Doug Baldwin, uh, Davis, Jimmy Graham, Lockett, and the defense is always going to be good, even if some of the starters out like a Richard Sherman, but they still have Cam Chancellor and Thomas back there, so they still have good players on defense. They can beat anybody. They
yeah,
have a good quarterback, smart quarterback in Russell Wilson. They can beat anybody. It just depends on how they come and execute plays. We Green Bay, the first game, we showed them that if you startle Russell Wilson, then it's gonna be a hard game for him. But now they picked it up. They know what to do and not to do, and they showed that they could beat anybody and they beat a team that was 10-1. So yeah,
yeah. Most definitely, it's to me like the reason I posed that question is just because what they can sustain defensively. You know what I mean? And the play from their secondary has been pretty impressive.
yeah,
When you lose two really stalwarts and Richard Sherman and Cam Chancellor, you wonder, is the defense going to have a lapse? And they actually haven't. In terms of the performance they had last night, they were able to sustain it. They were able. I mean, they're still a really good defense, and so that's something that can't go undermined and can't go undernoted.
yeah, most definitely. And then you can't forget the ad in Sheldon Richardson this season, who has been has been impactful for the D line. Uh, so I mean, they're playing good football, and they showed that against the Eagles. It's going to be
Yeah.
interesting how they pans out for the rest of the season if the Philadelphia Eagles can bounce back after the loss against the Seahawks.
Yeah, most definitely. It should be interesting. Um, Robert Gronkowski had to say the least, a dirty play
Yeah,
and a hit that was unnecessary, and he suspended 1 game. What were your thoughts on the play, and the hit, and just kind of the unnecessary kind of out of characteristic reaction. I mean, action from Rob Gronkowski.
It was juvenile, man.
Yeah,
It was really juvenile. It was probably heat of the moment, but still you should have more restraint to not to hit a defensive player. So in a way, the same way you want somebody to do the same thing to you, even though you're this six figure. But it was a dirty play. In one game, it's not enough.
it's not.
That's like a pat on the. It's okay. A little pat. It's okay. We know you're not this type of player. But give it. Look at Vontez Burfict. If he would have did that, would have gave him 4 games or 5 games, or one game suspension is not enough. I think you need 2 or 3 because if you're trying to rule out more injuries and taking the risk out of football, and that's one of them. He hit a defensive player. What if he would have paralyzed him or messed his spine up or something
Yeah,
along
think
those
about how
lines?
big Rob Gronkowski is.
Yeah,
I
and
mean,
you're
like
just power
it's
driving on top of someone.
yeah. Yeah, so I mean, it's definitely something where it seemed like a light suspension. It
Yeah,
really did, with all things considered. It really didn't seem like the probably the most appropriate punishment for that type of action, and it really doesn't affect them as a team in terms of, I mean, they're it's not like they still have them to play against Pittsburgh, and it's like they don't have him for Miami, but they're going to be fine without him for Miami. So that doesn't really even put an impact on the team. And I feel like when you have a play like that, it has to be a suspension where it also impacts the team, not
right.
just the player himself. You know what I mean? So,
Yeah.
yeah, I definitely agree with you there. Um, with LeVar Ball, yeah, I know. he removed LiAngelo from UCLA, and um, it was, to say the least, unconventional. Not a decision that you would expect, but everything he's pretty much done has been unconventional. From since we first heard him. What were your thoughts on the move to remove him? I heard that him and LaMelo are trying to get Lonzo's agent so they can get on a team overseas. What are your thoughts on that?
Actually, like 6 hours ago, they actually did get the
Oh,
Lonzo's
really?
agent to
Wow.
sign them, and then they're going to. They said a couple of teams overseas are interested in them. So it's man, I'm still on the LeVar Ball train.
Really?
Just coming, yeah, I still am. It's kind of hard to explain, but I'll try for the sake
Oh,
of
yeah, sure,
the
sure.
podcast. Just looking at, I don't know. I was okay with him taking LiAngelo out of UCLA because he was dragging the feet about how long his suspension was, which is fine because he embarrassed himself, he embarrassed the college, he embarrassed his family. So yeah, but give us some time, speed up the process of telling them what's going to happen. You left us in the dark. So as a father, I want to do the best thing for my son and what I think is the best thing for my son and what he thinks, because it's just not him. That's what the misconception is, just not him making decisions. It's a whole entire family. The mom makes it. Even little Lamelo makes decisions for himself and as a collective, and Lonzo as a family. That's how close knit they are, and their uncles.
Yeah.
So the idea of them going overseas and skipping college, I mean, some people don't need to go to college. I mean, it's the equivalent of players going for 1 year and going straight to the NBA draft, which is what's his plan in the first place for his kids. And Lonzo did it. So there's just skipping steps and really, because they already have a business. So why do they need to go to college? So it's just revamping their style of their play, and he wants his sons to play together.
But do you
I
think
don't
this
know.
is gonna work for them? Do you think this is
I
gonna work for them over? I mean, I know there have been some players overseas that have been successful, like Giannis and Kristaps Porzingis. Um, but for them, it's like you had this great opportunity to be at an elite program in UCLA. Kind of, you know, w- wasted it a little. With
really.
not to me, yes, because it really wasn't an opportunity. I feel like without LeVar and with maybe even without Lonzo, does LiAngelo really have a shot to play at a school like UCLA? I didn't really even think he was a draft prospect without the trouble. I mean, out of the three, I thought he was the least likely to be a draft prospect. I still think LaMelo can be one, but for me, I just really didn't see him as
Right.
NBA draft prospect. That's just me though. But
Which is true, but that's why I don't think if you would have went to UCLA and stayed at UCLA and wouldn't have gotten into trouble, I think he would have stayed, and I think you would have seen that his game needs some more polish.
yeah,
So now he went into that trouble and all that stuff. Fast forward. Now I have a chance to polish my game because these people are telling me I'm not going to be able to go in a draft, but go overseas and play basketball and fall in love with basketball and do what you want to do with your life. Because I understand the opportunity of going to UCLA, but why waste someone's time and staying for a year? Instead, I'm not going to waste your time. I'm not going to take your scholarship money that you give somebody else who wants and need this scholarship. I'm going to follow and go to overseas and revamp my style and my play and get better. I can't get better on the bench, and teams are interested in LiAngelo and Melo. So I think it's both. It's you see that as an opportunity, but this is also an opportunity for them. You know,
yeah, and that's a good a really good point because the fact that having opportunities overseas and where he can just start over, he can reset and be like, let me just fall in love with the process of the game that I love and everything that takes to actually be to play at the highest level one day. And maybe that's the opportunity that this affords him, that he can get away from um, the microscope and the high scrutiny that he would still be in UCLA, and finally get an environment where it's not so it's not there's not going to be so much scrutiny, and that's something that for me, you know, I, it probably still wasn't the most ideal way things turned out, but maybe you know what I mean. But this is probably, like you said, an outlet for for him to um, possibly have a chance later down the road to play at the highest level.
I think so. And some players that never went to college and has been successful at the next level. I'm not saying he's a Kobe or LeBron or Kevin Garnett or any of those guys, but he can be that type of guy. You know,
Yeah,
so it doesn't matter what type of role he. People will say, "Oh, he should have went to college or he should have stayed at UCLA." Why? Why should he have stayed at UCLA? If basketball is the main point, if the whole point was him to go to UCLA for 1 year to go to the NBA, he's skipping a step. He's saving a scholarship for UCLA. You could give that to somebody else that can bring some talent to your squad and your school to get an education, just in case they stay for 4 years. I don't need an education because I already have a family business. We're decent with money. I can go overseas and be successful overseas, and people who want me to play basketball on the next level. So I don't see what all the hoopla is about. Is a father making a decision and his sons making a decision together to better themselves, their brand, who they are, and to revamp their style of play. And he wants his sons to play together. So
yeah,
I don't see the downside of any of that, to be honest. Well,
yeah,
maybe with LaMelo, I think they're still homeschooling. I hope they're still homeschooling so he can get actual a high school diploma. Other than that, I'm fine with it.
yeah. I'm not fully on board with LeVar Ball. It's just there's
Yeah,
a lot of things, a lot of decision making. I personally just don't agree with. But hey, that's you know he, you still have to realize what he's doing is they do have their own brand, and they're going to try they've already done things unconventionally, and this is just another extension of it. Um, Transitioning to the NBA, look, there's been a lot of ejections, a rampant ejections in terms of, we saw LeBron get his first ejection, Anthony Davis get an ejection, even Sean Livingston get one and get suspended for an altercation with the ref, which the ref also got disciplined as well. And, Kevin Durant, DeMarcus Cousins, getting ejected Monday night. What are your thoughts on all these ejections? And do you think that the referees are making a decision that they're just not going to back down and they're not going to take it, like in terms of what they think is too far and over the line?
I think you're trying to take a no bars policy, just trying to take all of the nonsense out of the game. But some of the technical fouls are kind of iffy, kind of overboard. I guess they're trying to, present the dominance and the authority of the game and try to keep the game in wraps so it won't get out of line or out of hand like Pistons and the Pacers back in the day.
Yeah,
That huge fight with the fans and stuff. So then they're trying to, keep everything under wraps. But sometimes you need to let that animosity and that anger, let them get it out. They're not going to, they're going to be angry at the call. Of course, they'll be angry at the call. You didn't call a foul. They feel like they got hit hard or something. Let them talk it out. I see head coaches talk, yell at referees all the time. Like, are you blind and all this stuff? And they don't get a technical foul sometimes, or especially in football, they don't get a flag. So I think, I don't know. Because especially the one against LeBron James, that was kind of over the top. I don't know what LeBron said, but throwing him out was kind of overboard to me, in my
yeah,
opinion.
yeah. And it was a rookie referee, so he
Yeah.
probably, yeah, and
So what are you
probably,
gonna do?
yeah, exactly. And so he probably wanted to make a stake like, hey, I'm not going to back down. I'm not going to back down from you, even though they probably found out later, hey, that was his first time ever being ejected, and so that probably changed some things in terms of what he thought about it. Um, with Devin Booker, look, he he's had he's just improved in terms of this season and what he's been able to do, but this past Tuesday he had a left adductor strain and he's going to be out 2 to 3 weeks. And it kind of changed the question because I was like, I was so, how he was playing, he's playing so well. And then I see, oh my gosh, he's got a left adductor strain. This changes the scenario. But even with that, he's been shooting 49% from the field, 36% from the three. And he looks like the potential to be an absolute star. And with that potential, do you think he deserves more in terms of a supporting cast and just kind of the mediocrity that's surrounding him right now?
I think so.
Yeah.
Um, they, they get rid of Eric Bledsoe. Well, I guess Eric Bledsoe got rid of himself. They don't really have. Yeah, T.J. Warren is a good player. Tyson Chandler is an old center, but he's still durable. Marquez Chris, he's okay, but this guy's putting up 40, 50 points and they're still losing. So of course he needs a supporting cast. They need a bench. They need to go get players. That's the bottom line. Just go get more players. You know,
Yeah. Yeah.
Devin Booker cannot do it himself. He just what his career high the other day was like 40 or 50 points this season. This is a guy who scored like a lot of points last year too. So of course you need a supporting cast for him. They're 9-18. Fifth. I think they're fifth in the Pacific.
Yeah.
So yeah, you definitely need a supporting cast for Devin
Yeah.
Booker, and then it's going to be interesting. Can they win
But
without
do you
him?
think he should? Do you think it's one of those things? It's not just the supporting cast. Do you think, hey, Devin Booker should down the road, maybe a 2 or 3 year, or maybe sooner, move, like decide to, I don't know what his contract situation is, but do you think it's one of those things he should, think of going elsewhere, somewhere where he doesn't waste his prime?
I think he should slow play
So
because he's the
player.
man. He's the man at the Suns, and going to another team, we don't know. Like you said, we don't know his contract information. We don't know what team who will want him or what that situation at the team will be. Right
Because
now,
we're
we
seeing his
know.
full offensive array right now.
Yeah,
Like we're seeing everything that he is. I mean, he can be a star.
yeah, and I think he is. He's becoming one.
Yeah.
I think he's still a young player. I think he still can be one of the guys. I don't think right now he should slow play and play it out until see if they actually add more players in the all season in the draft. Do they go trade? They try to trade for different people. So right now, if you're the man, I don't think you will want to be a sidekick to anybody else going to another team. Because right now, I don't know what team will be able to get him because now he's built his resume and now he's probably going to want a bigger contract after the season
Yeah,
because he's been playing good ball for the last 2 seasons. So
yeah,
that's the part that's kind of iffy.
yeah, most definitely, and that should be an interesting development. Um, Steph Curry had a right ankle sprain late in the game against the Pelicans on Monday night, and he's going to probably be out for 2 weeks. He'll be reevaluated on the 19th. And there's always been the question of, look, we saw what they were able to do without Kevin Durant last season when they went on a 14 game winning streak. But now they have to do something different that they really haven't been able to do, and that's win without Steph for a stretch in the season. And we saw, I mean, Kevin Durant had a great performance last night, having a 35 points, 11 assists, 10 rebounds in his ninth career triple double. But how much do you think the loss of him for a little bit affects him, or is it just something where, hey, look, we can see what it looks like with just Kevin Durant?
I think they can win.
Yeah,
Steph, don't get me wrong, Steph is a big part of that squad and the schemes that they run on offense and on defense. But once you have a guy like who's named Kevin Durant who is capable of scoring 40 points a game if he wanted to. I know Steph is leading the team with 26 points average, but I think Kevin Durant can be that guy. Is that guy for them? I think they can win without Steph. Steph is a good shooter, but the dynamics of Kevin Durant on defense and as well as on the
good,
offensive.
good,
Yeah, he can play. He can
great.
play every position on the court. He can play the 4 or
Yeah.
5, whatever.
Yeah, and that's yeah. I mean, the thing with Steph is when he's on the court, like teams, he takes up so much space. Like the spacing of it from 35 feet. Like when he gets past half court, teams are already pulling up on him because he's such a threat, and like they already know that they just have a fear of him and what he can do offensively.
Right. Yeah, I think his presence will be missed, but I think they still can win. And they can switch up the lineup too. They could play with it a little bit. If they wanted to, they can move Sean Livingston to the point guard position. Then they can have Clay and Kevin, then Draymond Green, and move Petula out, bring David West in, or put they could switch it up. Iguodala in there, they can play with it because they have depth. They put Swaggy P at the point guard position. They'll be fine. They
Yeah.
have the depth. And I think that's the biggest move that they did this offseason with go get guys, just in case Steph goes down because Steph has been injured before. Kevin Durant has been injured before. We know Draymond is, battling the injury right now as well. So they have the depth at the, in the positions that they need to fill. They might be a little old on the other, old side with Sean Livingston and Andre Iguodala and David West, but they're
Andre
still young
Iguodala
players.
is extremely valuable. I
He
mean,
is.
extremely. I mean, if there's about one or two players who can raise their hands if the in the question of is there a player who can literally just somewhat make LeBron not as balanced offensively. It's Andre Iguodala. Like he won the Finals MVP in 2015 and actually did a stellar job on LeBron James. There's not many players who can do that.
I will give him this. He did slow down LeBron, but LeBron still,
Yeah,
yeah, he is. Yeah,
yeah.
of course.
I mean, you can never fully neutralize LeBron. I'm just saying, to some extent, have an
Yeah,
effect on him, which he kind of did. So yeah, most definitely. What is there anything else in the with the Cav, with the Cavs 13 game winning streak? Um, what are your thoughts on their streak and when do you see it ending?
I'm glad because I was going to mention that as well. I'm glad you said something about that because everybody was panicking, of course. It's like,
So
whoa,
silly of us, so silly of
yeah.
us.
I was like, whoa, what's going on
The
with these
sky's falling.
guys? Yeah, the sky is falling. The British was coming. So then I knew like what we talked about last week, LeBron has to be that guy again. Even when he was with Miami, he had to be that guy. Even when he had Dwayne Wade, Chris Bosh, Mario Chalmers, has them at the power forward position, he still had to be that guy, and that's what it's showing. He has to be that guy. He's averaging 28 points a game. He's going berserk. I
Yeah.
think that's the. I don't see it ending. I was going to pose a question because I wanted to talk about this for a minute. Do you think they can go as streakful as the Atlanta Hawks did? And given the fact that they have a player that was on that streak team in Cal Korver.
I actually think they can. In terms of extending the streak. To me, I think the kind of a game that could be a trap game is the Pacers, like this Friday, because the Pacers have been playing well, and that's a good team, and that could be something that could be a bit of a roadblock. But for me, as long as LeBron keeps playing at this level, which I mean, he's always going to play at the highest level,
Right.
but the way I mean, you heard him in the post game, like in terms of that late game situation, he's like, I have to have the ball in my hands, like there's no question, because he's like I think we talked about it before. LeBron's step back 3-pointers are becoming unguardable.
Mm-hmm.
They're like becoming completely unguardable, and he's become so comfortable with that shot. Like
Yeah,
when it happened, it was like that's his shot.
absolutely. Bottom
You know
of
what I
the
mean?
net. Yeah.
Yeah, he has become so, like he even said one time he was pulling back from way deep, and you're like, whoa, and he made it, but it was like that's a little out of LeBron's range, but
Right.
he's still knocking it down. So I think, yeah, I mean, and the Wayne Wade being a sixth man is so huge for them.
Yeah.
Like, and he's finally accepting that role, and I think that's a huge part to it. He and Kevin Love both had 24, I think, in one game, and that's huge. Getting 24
Yeah.
points from Wade off the bench is huge for them.
I agree. And then the highlight of this entire month is Isaiah Thomas is playing 4-on-4 in practice.
Wow.
So he might be coming back in late December, early
Could we
January.
get a Christmas game sighting from Isaiah Thomas?
Could we? If that, I think that'll be so like
And Steph
beneficial.
coming back.
Yeah, like it'd be amped up. It'll bring some more life. Then we'll
Think
see
about
how
it.
he.
Think about it. The Cavs still have their streak Christmas Day. Could that happen?
I think they
I don't.
can. Let
You
me.
think
Let
so?
me. I think I'm gonna see it. Look at their schedule real quick. So they have the Pacers, Philly, Atlanta, Lakers, Utah, Washington, Milwaukee, Chicago, and then they're at Golden State.
Milwaukee.
Milwaukee is the only one that's well.
Uh,
Washington,
Giannis could have a 40 point.
well, he might, but I
not
think they could
not
beat.
40, but Giannis, he's just he's gonna play really well.
They could be definitely beat Indy. They could beat
Yeah,
Atlanta. Philly might be a problem. Philly comes to play with Ben Simmons. They could beat the Lakers. They could beat Utah. They could beat Washington. It's going to be a difficult game for them. They can. The Milwaukee game is going to be. They already beat
yeah,
Chicago, and Dwayne Wade went off on Chicago, so I think they could do it again. And
yeah.
then they have Golden State.
Yeah, I mean, it should definitely be interesting to see how this streak continues to play out. And um, Isaiah Thomas possibly coming back, it should be a pretty big deal for them as well. Final question with the MVP early race in the NBA, who's your front runner right now?
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, I just want to present the MVP of the 2017-2018 season, LeBron James. LeBron is the
Really?
MVP. LeBron James is the MVP. He's been doing it consistently for years since he came into the league. He has the fountain of youth. Most of the time, the guys kind of edge off and they, get injuries or whatever. LeBron has never had a long pen out injury for himself. LeBron has been doing it. It's unbelievable. He is the best player in the world. He's one of the best players to ever step foot on the hardwood floor. He is the MVP. right now and at the end of the season. He's been raw for the last 4 seasons. Let's be honest.
Yeah, there's another guy who's been robbed for a little bit. I mean, I'm not gonna say robbed, but he's been in the mix, and I'm gonna go with the bearded one in Houston.
No,
To me, what James Harden has done, he's
no.
been phenomenal, and the fact that his team is the best team, has the best record in the West right now, and yes, Chris Paul is playing well, and
I knew he was gonna bring that up.
yeah, I mean, I just had to, but even for a stretch, but to me, what James Harden has been able to do, he's like just a bigger version of Steve Nash. And the fact that the season he had last year was historic, even with Russell Westbrook and what he was doing. But James Harden, he's been playing phenomenal. He's unstoppable to guard on offense. And I mean, he's unstoppable. He's just tough to stop on offense, I should say. And his team is playing the best in the West. And for me, he's the guy. And LeBron's number two for sure. But I would say it's tough for me to go against James Harden. I would just
He's not a clutch player. He's not built for the NBA Finals. He's not built for tough. He's not built for it. My MVP is the most valuable player who betters the team on
are we
offense
saying
and defense.
like
Most
yeah.
valuable player on offense and defense. LeBron is the most valuable player on offense and defense. He changes the way of the game. James Harden doesn't do that. Anybody can shoot the ball in the basket. Can you make a difference on defense when it matters? And
Yeah,
that's not most valuable to me.
that's an interesting point. I mean, it really isn't. It really is an interesting point because that's always been a conversation. Is it really? Are we really putting value on the word valuable? But for me, it's to like in terms of would we really? Would you even be saying that if the Cavs were still struggling right now? Like that's
Yes.
kind of really
But
okay.
that's the thing. But that's the thing. They were even in the struggle. LeBron James was consistent, averaging 28 points a game, 9 rebounds, 8 assists, probably 3 steals, I would say.
Yeah.
He's still consistent. And then you can tell the difference when he actually starts playing. The first 5 games, he was filling out the team, trying to figure out who he's going to go to, who's going to be the go-to guy. Can Dwayne Wade be early Dwayne Wade, Flash Wade? Can Jay Crowder, shoot the three consistently? Can Kyle Korver, Tristan Thompson is back. What we're doing here? So now that's why he said, I got to have the ball in my hands.
Yeah.
Now
Yeah.
he's Jordan-esque right now. He's Jordan, Kobe and Jordan-esque right now. Because sometimes LeBron doesn't want the ball in his hand. He'll give it to someone else. But now he's in attack mode. He's early NBA playoff mode. Early, which is kind of scary. That's why they're on a
That's
13-game
really
winning streak.
scary.
Really, really scary because he changes and switches to a different human being when it comes to the playoffs.
And you know
So
what? You know
now,
what? I have to say to close this out. And you know what all started it? The
what's that?
Arthur Mood post. Ever since the Arthur Mood post, when
You have to refresh my memory.
when he made the post of the clenched fist on Instagram.
Right, yeah, yeah.
You probably don't remember, but it was like I think it was right after like Kyrie had just a great performance against Atlanta. And people always say like LeBron, whenever LeBron is making posts, they're always subliminal. Like they always have like a hidden message behind them. And ever since then, they've been pretty good. But like you said, the fact that he's engaged this early is what's really scary. Like that's the scary part of it.
It is. I'm sorry. A little delay there.
Oh, sorry. Yeah.
Yeah, no. But that is scary because most of the time LeBron is mellow because he has that player, that scorer. I don't think he ever had that scorer when he was on the team. He's only
Yeah.
been with two teams, which is in Miami and Cavs. Early on in his career, he didn't have a scorer, and then when he was at the Miami, Dwayne Wade can score, but he wasn't a complete scorer. Now he comes to back to the Cavaliers. He has Kyrie Irving for 3 years. Kyrie's a scorer, so it's kind of he kind of switched his game up a little bit. Now he doesn't have a score. Now he has to be that guy. He has to be
Yeah.
Kobe. He has to be Michael Jordan. He has to be that enforcer, attacker. Go to the
Most
rim,
definitely.
shoot the three.
Yeah,
Shoot the J, shoot it. No, I'm joking.
and he's been absolutely phenomenal and has just been great. That's about it for us tonight. It was another good one. Great talking to you, man. I'm your host, Wenzel Burns, along with my counterpart, Savon Morris. See you later.